Hello, my name is Henry Siebenschritt, and I'm going to be walking through the academic Excel data file in this video. So the data file is contained in two separate documents. Number one, the Academic Accountability Report, which is what I'm in, and then also the CCRPI by school file, which was released a little bit earlier in the year. If you're in the by school file, this page actually starts on the summary tab. It's the same tab, it's just renamed. In the academic accountability report file where I am, you'll see that it is labeled school scores. So when you open up this tab, you'll notice that all of these scores are blank. You need to select a school in order to populate its scores. You're also unable to edit any of these cells. As you can see, they have formulas in them that pull this appropriate score into that cell. So that's just so that that doesn't get messed up. When you're ready to actually select a school, you go up here to cell A1, school name, and you'll see a drop-down arrow appear. You click on that, and from there you'll see a list of all the schools. You may not be able to see it in this video, but once you're in the file, you will. And then you just click on the school that you want to look at. I have a sample charter school for the purposes of this video. And once you click on the school, all the information will populate across the sheet. To give an overview of the structure of this sheet, you have 4 academic measures by which state charter schools are evaluated. Those 4 measures are content mastery, CCRPI progress, grade band score, and a value-added measure. Within each of those measures, scores are broken down by grade band, so elementary, middle, and high. So a state charter school that serves all 3 grade bands will have 3 separate content mastery scores, 3 separate progress scores, and so on and so forth. The way that a state charter school can meet academic standards is by outperforming its comparison school. And we construct 2 comparisons, and the state charter school just has to outperform one of those comparisons. So the 2 comparisons, first in column C, you'll see all up and down the school level comparison. That's where we take school level, we construct a school based off of the students in the state charter school where those students would otherwise go to in their traditional public school. Then we also construct a district-weighted comparison. The state charter school, if it outperforms one of these 2 comparison scores, then it will show in the color coding for column B. This dark green means they actually exceeded academic standards by outperforming the comparisons by 10 or more points. The light green means that they outperformed, but not by 10 or more points. If there were a yellow cell here, that would mean that they approach standards by performing 2 points below up to on par with that school. And then if it's not highlighted, that means that the state charter school performed lower than its comparisons, greater than 2 points lower. So that's how the grade band scores work for each of the measures. We also construct a whole school score, and that's grade band enrollment weighted. So first, we take a look at what percentage of your student body is in each grade band. So if you have, as the sample charter school has 46% elementary school students, 24% middle school, and 30% in the high school grade band. So taking those percentages, we multiply them by their respective score to get a weighted score, and then add them all up to get an overall school score. Similarly, we use these same percentages to weight a school level comparison using these scores to get an overall comparison score. And then the same process, use the same enrollment percentages to weight a district level comparison score. And I've been highlighting that process in the content mastery measure. But of course, that's the same process that occurs for the progress measure and the grade band score measure. The value added looks a little bit different. There's no whole school weighted score, but just the same as the other ones. There's a state charter school value add score, there's a school level comparison construct, and there's a district level comparison construct. In order to outperform on the value added measure, the state charter school must perform significantly higher than either of its comparisons. If it did, it would say higher in one of these cells, which did not occur for our sample charter school. The last major piece of this tab is the calculations explained section. It's a quick reference. A lot of the information that I just talked about is there. So if you're looking at this file and need a quick refresher, you can refer to this text. So that's the main summary tab. This is going to be your probably the most helpful tab for you in just seeing how did your school compare to its comparisons. Which measures is it doing well in? Maybe which measures might you need to target for the next academic school year? The next 4 tabs, which is the rest of the file, shows you how each of the comparisons are constructed. So the overall school comparison tab and the grade band school comparison tab show you how both of the school comparison scores are calculated. So overall school comparison will result in this score, and this score, basically column G, because that's your overall enrollment weighted school comparison. Grade band school comparison will be the scores that are in column C, here, here, and here, as well as the value-added school level comparison. So grade band school comparison gets you the grade band scores. Then it's the same thing, but now with district comparisons. The overall district comparison is in this tab, and that's where you're going to see the construction of this score, and this score. And then finally, grade band district comparisons will be the construction of these 3 scores, these 3 scores, and these 3 scores, as well as the value-added district-weighted comparisons. So now we can take a look inside these tabs. They all follow the same basic structure. Starting with the row number 1, you see the headers. Each row then is a different school. It's a different school which students would otherwise go to if they were not attending your state charter school. So the columns A and B is just the state charter school identifier information. Column C shows which grade band we're looking at, and then column D is the district in which the matched school is located. So once you get to the school names, you have, in this case for the elementary grade band, you have 7 different elementary schools which students would otherwise go to if they were not going to sample charter school. And then the next cell shows you what percentage of students at sample charter school would have gone to each of these schools. So you can see here that for Baker County K-12 school, for the elementary grade band, only 1% of students would go to Baker County K-12 school if they were not attending sample charter school. For Calhoun County Elementary School, that number is up to 14.8%. Meaning that a lot more students would otherwise go to Calhoun County Elementary if they were not going to sample charter school. So then what these weights allow us to do is to look at each of the measure scores that each school got, so the content mastery score, the progress score, and the grade band score. And then we can take those scores and multiply them by the percent student enrollment to get a weighted score for each measure. So column J is for content mastery, column K is for progress, and column L is for grade band score. So you get the weighted score for each school, and then once you get to the last school in the grade band, in the elementary grade band, you can add up all of those weighted scores to get a comparison school score for the elementary grade band. Now, you'll notice that only 46% of students at Sample Charter School are in the elementary grade band, so we need to also add to these scores the 30% of students in the high school grade band and the 23% in the middle school grade band. So to do that, we repeat the same process, multiply each of the school's academic measure scores times the school weighting to get a weighted score, add those weighted scores all up to get a comparison school score for the grade band. Same thing for middle. So then, since this is an overall school comparison, we will add the middle grade band comparison score, the high, and the elementary to get the overall for each academic measure. So I'm in the content mastery column, but we would do the same for progress and the same for grade band score. And if you add that, we can just take a look at where that will show on the school score tab. This is about a 21 rounds up to, this is about an 11, and then a 9. So that should be 11, 9 is 20, plus 21 should be 41. So we go back to the school scores tab. This is overall school comparison. So we would expect this to be in the grade band enrollment. And that was the content mastery measure. So we would go to content mastery and we see, yes, it's a 41. All right, on to the grade band school comparison. The process is the same here and the sheet looks pretty similar. I'm going to zoom out so we can see all of the different columns. If you need to zoom out or in, you can always do so at the bottom right of the Excel file. The same thing happens here, except now we want to know what were the grade band scores. So what was the elementary score, what was the middle school score, and what was the high school score. For this construction, we treat each grade band as its own individual school. So we say that 100% of students in this comparison school are in the elementary grade band. Then we treat the middle school as its own individual school, and then we treat the high school as its own individual school. But then the process is exactly the same. We take the content mastery, progress, and grade band score. We multiply that by the weighted student enrollment to get, and we also use the VAM here, the value added measure, and then that gives us our weighted scores. We get weighted scores for each school, and then we add them up here to get the grade band scores. So that this is, I'm in the elementary grade band, so just to see where these scores would populate, we see a 40 rounds up to 45 here. That's for content mastery, 71 for progress, 66 for grade band score, and negative 0.07 for value add. Then we can go back here and see the 45 for elementary content mastery, 71 for progress, 66 for grade band, and the negative 0.07 for value add. And you can then look at the same scores for the middle grade band and the high school grade band within this tab. Here's middle and here's high school. The next two tabs are a repeat of these two tabs, only now we're looking at the district level comparison. where we're not going in and taking every individual school where students would otherwise have attended. We're just looking at the districts where students would otherwise attend. So the matched district here is as granular as we'll get in this tab. And then similarly, we take the percentages of students in each district, multiply that by the academic measures to get a weighted score, which is then summed up to get the comparison district score. Since we are in the overall district comparison, we the grade band, we combine all the grade bands into one score. So then we treat elementary as 46%, the high as 30, and then middle as 24, and then add up those scores accordingly. And then we will see those scores reflected on the school scores tab as the overall district, and that should be 9 plus about 11, 20 plus about 21, so that would be, again, 41. For the sample charter school, there's not a lot of schools going into the calculation. Your school may have a list 3 or 4 times as long, and that's also why you see pretty much the same scores for district and school level in this case. That will not be the case for the vast majority of charter schools that you're looking at. The final tab then is the grade band tab for the district comparison. So again, now we are treating each grade band as its own individual school and calculating the scores as such. So these are the scores you would see reflected for the elementary grade band. These are the scores that would be reflected for the middle and then high school. So that's pretty much it for these for this data file. Again, these 4 tabs, the comparison tabs, show you the data used to construct the scores, and it can be helpful if you're wanting to know which districts or which schools are where students would otherwise go to if they were not attending your charter school. It gives you an idea of, for example, in this case, Calhoun County represents a large portion of sample charter school students, so the scores that Calhoun County Elementary gets are important in the academic performance for the sample charter school. So then, of course, the school score tab is where, if you are less worried about the specific scores from each school and how that all gets weighted, this is a really good place to start, where you just see how the state charter school did in comparison to its school level and district weighted scores. And then you also here can see the overall designation that the school earns. So I'm going to call it there, but if you have questions about this data file, anything that I covered that you need clarification on, or anything that I didn't cover and you would be interested in knowing, you can reach out to me. You can shoot me an email. This is my email, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, and that is it for this video.